Hi, this is John Barnes, and you're listening to Cop On.
Nothing for days, then a message. I want to see a fight, an old one. So I bring a fight to you. You know nothing of these men. Even the most famous get to slink in their youth again. For you, Foreman is Leviathan, unstoppable. Ali, just past his prime, flown home to muscle back his title. Not sure how you'll react to violence. We lie down together again. Your feet in woolen stockings, kneadable across my thighs. Your mouth close to my ribs and their inmate, a pouting lifer. I fidget and you scold. As Ali opens up with right-hand leads, you flinch, but soon you're lost to the screen where he waits it out along the ropes, takes everything Foreman throws. You don't believe he can soak up all this pain and go on standing. We cheer him on, winter softened in the tropic of his strength. When Ali comes alive to put Foreman on the ground, I see a hallelujah look as you turn to face me. He won, you say into my cheek. He did, I say. Welcome to Cop On Podcast, you featherlight cheese souffle. My name's Owen. You have just heard the excellent poem Rope-a-Dope by the marvellous Declan Ryan, and I'm delighted to bring you this episode, another double bumper blockbuster, thriller in Manila, rumble in the jungle special. First up, I preview Chelsea versus Liverpool with the marvellous Alex and Rebecca, a husband and wife who prove that love does indeed exist in the most unlikely of places, including amongst fans of either team. After that, you will hear a very excited chat between me and Doug from the fabulous Dugout YouTube channel about the fact that an agreement has been reached for Liverpool to sign the marvel that is Thiago Alcantara. Happy days, my beauties, happy days. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. I'm absolutely thrilled, joyed. I've got the shivers of excitement and wonder as I was trying to think of a way to introduce you. Actually, I've got Alex and Rebecca from the excellent "Did It Cross the Line" podcast, which all of our listeners should listen to. And they're famously amongst the podcasting circles. So I've got no idea what the podcasting circles are. I just listen to tons of podcasts. So that you're famous in my head, both of you, and I hope around the world, as a husband and wife team. And I was thinking, what husbands and wives are there? And of course, the first one, unfortunately, that popped into mind was to say, you're the posh and becks of the podcasting world, but that's disgusting. That makes me feel a bit sick. Because they're both very vapid people. And then I was thinking, what famous couples are there? There's Sharon and Ozzy, but I don't want to ask you, Alex, about your consumption of various things, but they're a pretty cool couple. And then I couldn't think of any others. I could only think of Nelson and Winnie Mandela, but again, not quite appropriate. So, if welcome.
Getting compared to them, that's it's quite a big deal.
I was thinking John Legend and Chrissy Teigen. I often think of myself as a poor woman's Chrissy Teigen, so that's what I'll go with.
Excellent stuff. I shall pretend to know who they are. I don't know many famous people. I think that's the problem. Yeah, Nelson and Winnie Mandela. Winnie Mandela was accused of embezzling, so that's not really appropriate. And of course, you've got the whole emancipation of a country. Anyway, so football. Welcome, Alex and Rebecca. Tell the listeners about your podcast. Did it cross the line? How's it all going there, please?
I mean, first of all, that's probably the best intro we've ever had on a podcast. We haven't appeared,
including our own, actually.
Yeah. We haven't appeared on a podcast as a duo before, apart from our own, have we? So this is a cool experience.
Sometimes Noah comes on with one or the other of us, our cat, who famously supports Spurs. But yes, this is the first time we've done it together. Did It Cross the Line is just a basic, football podcast. We talk about the Premier League, talk about European football, always have a bit of a laugh with each other as well. I get a little bit of therapy by being able to shade Alex for various tasks around the house that don't get done.
Yeah, usually, me not doing the laundry and stuff
it's
like
always
that.
the laundry, isn't it?
Every
Gosh,
week,
what might that say?
every week that gets mentioned. But yeah, obviously, as you can probably guess from the name, one of us supports Chelsea, one of us supports Liverpool, and the podcast was named after the goal that definitely happened from Luis Garcia.
Yeah, I used to look back at that goal and get really upset and absolutely hate it. And I used to have tears in my eyes when I watch it on repeats or Sky or whatever. And now I've got a really almost sweet feeling about it, because it's what brought us together, because we originally met at work, and so we bonded over it, and now we've got a podcast, and it was a great name.
Yeah, that's true. That's basically how we bonded and got together in the first place. It's a love of alcohol and a love of football, basically. So, which is kind of what our podcast is summed up. So.
No, it's absolutely superb. I really enjoy it. I recommend it to all of our listeners, because it's just very nice. It's very nice to have two opposing opinions. And of course, it's Liverpool versus Chelsea on Sunday, the next match. It's so exciting. I mean, for Liverpool fans, so I'll start with you, Alex. I mean, Liverpool against Leeds is a great start, and then Liverpool Chelsea and Liverpool Arsenal. Wow. I mean, you could say it's a tough start, but it's also a beautiful start, isn't it? Leeds, Chelsea, Arsenal. How are you feeling about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm obviously looking forward. We always look forward to the Chelsea game. Obviously, we're excited to see the touchline rematch between Klopp and Lampard, and what element of the code Klopp and his team are judged to have broken this time. But yeah, I mean, it is when we were looking at the fixtures, it's a pretty wild start. I think, we spoke about it, I think you spoke about it on here last week, about how Leeds was potentially quite a tricky first fixture, and yeah, it definitely proved to be that. It was a bit of a banana skin. At least we got through it, but I don't think my heart can take it if we're going to have another 37 games that go like that. We got so used to Liverpool being great at defending, and that was not so much the case against Leeds, to be honest.
You say that though, but I remember how quickly doth forget, because I remember last season when you were playing Aston Villa and you couldn't even look at the telly. You were stood in the kitchen having a heart attack. I had to let you know what was happening, because you were so stressed. That wasn't even a year ago, even though it feels like 9 years ago.
Yeah, so the longest season ever. But
you forget, and I'll tell you, when you defend a title, everything you did last season just goes out the window, completely goes out the window, and it's a different level of pressure. It's pressure you've never experienced before. Well, I mean, you literally haven't experienced it before, but it's pressure that you don't know, because also when teams go to play you, you are the champions now. Although I would argue that teams never really try against Man City on a certain level compared to what they do against, for example, Liverpool anyway. But it's a whole different mentality in terms of the press as well. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of how Leeds came at Liverpool, it was, the way Bielsa set them up, he really set them up to attack in a way that, was really bold and brave, to be fair, and it paid dividends. So in this game, I'm not sure, if we'll see those same defensive errors. I'm really hoping we don't, because I don't anticipate that Lampard will set up the team to be quite as bold as Bielsa did with Leeds.
And also perhaps other teams, maybe Chelsea, won't be quite as clinical, because Leeds had 3 shots and they absolutely blammed all 3 of them into the goal. Chelsea started against Brighton. I watched part of the game. I didn't have time to watch it all, although it seemed intriguing, because when I looked at the fixture, I was like, oh yeah, Brighton, easy win for Chelsea. But I forgot the whole Graham Potter effect and the fact that they're actually pretty good, and they've got Duncan, White, potentially, one of the best defensive partnerships in the league. I mean, I think they're absolutely superb players. What did you make of Brighton against Chelsea, Rebecca?
I mean, I was actually a little bit surprised in that when we watched Chelsea last season, one thing I would never have called us was a bit boring, to be quite honest. We were always exciting, whether it was because we were getting battered or whether it was because we had a 3-goal lead and then ended up winning 3-2. Chelsea were always exciting, and I thought that Brighton game, you could visibly see Lampard was trying to inject a little bit of solidity, and that came at a little bit of a cost, which I guess we wouldn't have expected with, the influx of attacking players who came in this summer. But I still think the same problems Chelsea had last season are going to be the same problems they're going to have again this season, with the exception of having a striker who last season, when Tammy Abraham was playing, you could never bet your house on him to score. With Timo Werner, I would bet, if we could afford a house, I would absolutely bet it. But all I have is Noah. I'll bet my cat on Timo Werner to score. So it was an interesting one. And I think Brighton are an interesting side. I can never make my mind what I think about them, but I do agree with you on that defensive partnership. And, that's still something that I don't actually think Chelsea have.
I would say that, yeah, Duncan White is perhaps better than Zuma and Christensen, wasn't it, the other day?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. But if we're taking an overview, staying with you, Rebecca, on Chelsea, I looked it up. Transfer Market's a marvelous website. It gives you all the titles or trophies that teams have won. So for Chelsea, for the Liverpool fans who are listening, in case you weren't quite sure, Chelsea have won in total 6 league titles, 1 European Cup, 8 FA Cups, 5 League Cups, and 2 UEFA Cups, or Europa Leagues. So, Rebecca, that's a very decent list of honours. How confident are you out of 10 that this Chelsea team this season will be able to add to that list?
Can we go below 0?
You can, yeah. You can break any mathematical rules.
In terms of the league, I just don't think that's a possibility. I don't think it's realistic. And in my wildest dreams, I wouldn't even consider it when Liverpool and Manchester City are what they are. If we would have signed Jan Oblak and, maybe even Rafa Varane, despite what the English press will tell you now after one bad performance, I maybe would have gone with, we can genuinely challenge. The situation we're in with our goalkeepers, and still, in my opinion, with the defence and with Frank Lampard, no, we can't win the league. So that's one trophy gone. It's probably best if we don't talk about the Champions League after what Bayern Munich did to us.
Oh, I was going to ask, because I don't think we've spoken about the Champions League and whether you think Chelsea can actually,
At what point did you think that was a good idea to bring it up? When the night we got knocked out of Europe, I was downing tequila from the bottle and I made you stay up for hours doing karaoke of sad songs.
Oh, yeah.
Do you believe Beach's theme tune came out, Wind Beneath My Wings, and that is a sad song.
My memory slightly, I think.
Yeah, but realistically, in terms of the Champions League, what do I want and what do I expect? It's to get through the group stages. It is to hopefully get through the first knockout round, and then in a knockout competition, you never know. But I just don't think we are anywhere near, again, because of the goalkeeping situation, what your top sides are. If we drop down to the Europa League, I would say we'd have a good chance of winning that. Yes, that's a different conversation. And also we'd then have to converse about why, in fact, we are in the Europa League, which is a whole other problem. Carabao Cup. Does anybody really want the Carabao Cup this season? No, absolutely not. It's just not something that is appropriate. It's basically like when you're in Aldi and people pack their bags at the end of the till. That is not Aldi etiquette. It's not a good idea. Move your trolley. And this is just not a good idea. There is no point in the Carabao Cup this season. I don't think we will play our strongest side in it. I don't think we will, want to be going for that when the Premier League fixtures are piling up. The FA Cup is the one I'd say we have the best chance at, but I think, as you told me on our podcast, teams like Wolves and stuff are really going to look at that this season, because they'll think that Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, they'll have to write it off basically. And I think that teams like that are going to play best teams all the way through it and really make a go of it.
Yeah.
Realistically, if we're going to win one, it would be the FA Cup for me. But again, what if the Arsenal come along? And there's a sentence I never thought I'd have to say.
Yes, who knows? Yes, devastating FA Cup form from the Gunners. Yes, okay. From an outsider's point of view, yes, I mean, the obvious thing you mentioned, Kepa, I was going to talk about him later, but Alex, I'm going to ask you about Chelsea and Kepa, because from the outside, it's patently obvious. Mazd, who's part of the Cop-On families on our WhatsApp group, he said it's like having Casper the Ghost in goal. Because I think it was Richard Jolly who said he's conceded 9 goals from the last 13 shots on target. And one more stat for you that was mentioned in the last Cop-On is that there's no keeper in Europe's top 5 leagues with a worse save percentage than Kepa. Wow. What do you make of it, Alex?
Well, he's obviously not the guy Frank Lampard wants, despite what he might say in post-match interviews and say that Kepa's his guy. And, I am still slightly surprised that all the transfer talk on goalkeepers seem to go quite quiet. Like, we spoke about this on our podcast, after the All Black thing, when that just didn't happen, it seemed like it just went completely quiet. Like, why didn't they bring in someone like Nick Pope, for instance, who's obviously tried and tested in the Premier League? He was great last season as well, one of the best keepers in the league. I think would have been a really good fit. And it is something when we've spoken about Chelsea this season, and there's been all this excitement around all these new signings, this exciting attacking talent, which is understandable because they have signed some cracking players. But in terms of in the goal and in the defence, there's still a lot of issues there which haven't necessarily been addressed. And I'm also, on a wider point, not convinced that Lampard tactically is the right guy for the job. Like, looking at that Brighton game, they were just quite dull, to be honest. He set them up in a way that didn't necessarily seem to play to the new players' strengths. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting all round. I mean, Thiago Silva's obviously a good signing at the back, but
not if it's 4 at the back, he's not.
Yeah, which I guess is something we'll come on to, of what we expect to see in the Chelsea-Liverpool game formation-wise, because I think that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. But certainly, it's such an obvious thing to say, but you don't win titles, you don't challenge for titles if you concede goals. And the fact is, Chelsea at the back, in goal and in their defence, he just hasn't really addressed any of the issues properly from last season.
It's a strange situation as well, actually, as a Chelsea fan, because we've obviously, well, in my lifetime at least, which now is far too long, grey hairs are appearing.
Wow.
In my lifetime at least, I've seen quality goalkeepers, and I was devastated when Cech replaced Kudachini, not because I didn't like or rate Cech, but because Kudachini was so solid for us. He was absolutely brilliant, and then we had Cech, who was a different level entirely, and arguably the greatest, if not one of the greatest, the Premier League have seen. Then we replaced Cech with the Rat, who may have gone to pot for one season at Madrid, but if we're being honest, he was very decent for Chelsea. On the field, his conduct in the dressing room is deplorable. Clearly not a, moralistic man. Just ask Kevin De Bruyne. But
hang on. Whoa. Because I know that you're referring to Thibaut Courtois.
Yes.
Because I've worked it out from the context, but I don't follow what went on, because I've heard he's got a bad reputation in France, I will tell you that, amongst people that I speak to here. Yes, sort of personality wise, as someone who's a bit of a sociopath, can't admit that he's wrong, that kind of thing. But what is this? What are these scandals to which you refer?
So let's begin with Kevin De Bruyne. Now, Courtois may or may not have gone where he shouldn't have with Kevin De Bruyne's misses. Let's put it that way. And there was a big falling out there, and you can find that quite easily on Google. And then in terms of when he was at Chelsea, which is something I have a much bigger issue with, he spent so much of his time at Chelsea basically saying that he should be at Real Madrid, basically playing for the exit. And now, when we were trying to keep Eden Hazard, and when Hazard was in his last season, Courtois was saying to the Spanish press, oh, myself and Hazard used to sit in the Chelsea dressing room and talk about a move to Real Madrid. And, what kind of character is that, honestly? I just find that absolutely ridiculous. But when he was at the club and when he was playing on the field, he was a very good goalkeeper. And then we've ended up, going from him to Kepa, and the money aside, which, by the way, Frank Lampard, again, doesn't seem to understand figures or indeed anything to do with monetary value. He's going on about how much Alisson cost, but I do believe we then went and bought Kepa and smashed that monetary record.
Yeah.
So again, Frank, sorry to tell you, yeah, wrong. But, Kepa, I felt sorry for. We obviously had the Sarri issue. It certainly wasn't something that I felt Kepa was completely to blame for, because Chelsea have set a precedent of that's the way their players can behave. And it was only a matter of time before somebody did that, in my opinion. But now you look under Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard clearly didn't fancy Kepa, dropped him, I think shredded his confidence. And that's saying a lot, because I think Kepa is a very self-confident, if not arrogant, for multiple reasons, guy, and then Caballero comes in. Neither of them are anywhere near what we need at this point. And I would be more confident with an Adrian in goal. And it winds me up so much when I see fans have a pop at players like Adrian. And I think, my God, I'd rather have you than what we've got. People forget how good first choice keepers need to be, let alone second choice.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's the big thing, is that Chelsea, they've got the issues of Kepa and then their backups Caballero. So there's issues basically with both goalkeepers.
It's ridiculous. And also, it's not even the situation where we have to worry about what if Kepa gets injured. Oh God, we've got Caballero. It's even coming down to what pressure is our number 2 putting on our number 1 keeper, because he's just not very good. It's a very big problem, in my opinion, and we've not solved it.
And something you said in your podcast that I listened to was very interesting, your latest one. You said, though, that you thought it's better to fix your defence before you fix your attack, which I could totally understand. I mean, Liverpool had the old adage from Bill Shankly, who said that you should do exactly that, always build your team from the back. But Klopp did the reverse by not fixing our goalkeeping position until buying Alisson, his fourth year, something like that, at the club. So, when you say you have 0 out of 10 chance or less than 0,
Less than 0, yeah.
Which is a marvellous concept, sort of minus into the minus numbers of adding to your trophies. Maybe
you have to give a trophy back, basically.
I'll take the Europa League from Benitez, yeah.
Excellent. I mean, is it not possible to start with the attack, which looks frightening, and then work on the defence after?
So I'll put it this way: if your Liverpool side from the Rodgers year, when you just missed out on the title because, of course, Victor Moses messed it up, as we all know.
Yeah, don't steal my point.
I want to make these people like me. I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm already 1 down. From that season, if Klopp was your manager and you had that team, do you think you would have won a trophy? Because I do. I don't necessarily think you would have won the league, but I think you would have won a proper trophy. Now, I look at this team and I think if Jurgen Klopp managed us, if Pep Guardiola, pre his obsession with twice, and Liverpool had managed us, if Prime Mourinho, if Enrique were managing us, I would absolutely say we should be looking at doing a pretty decent haul this season. My problem is not just the fact that I'm worried about our defence and I'm worried about our goalkeeper. And I still think that the midfield needs a hell of a lot of tweaking, and the attack still isn't. I mean, the names are there for sure, but we all know what's on paper doesn't necessarily translate into reality.
Yeah.
I'm deeply, deeply worried about the manager we've got and his in-game changes and his man management. I tell you, if Arteta was our manager, I'd say we'll win our trophy this season.
You're so on the Arteta hype train now. It's
I am. I'm
enjoyable.
furious. I've Amazoned if you can get a cardboard cutout. You know, you can't yet, but give it a proper trophy and we'll be there.
But I was just going to chip in on that, because actually something we've spoken about is actually Lampard at his disposal does have good defenders. You know, you look at Rudiger, they've brought in Thiago Silva now. I think Tomori is a really exciting centre-back. The problem is he doesn't necessarily pick the right players to play, doesn't necessarily play the right system to where those defenders can thrive as well.
And then they make one mistake and they're not seen of for like 6 weeks. That's my problem, and that the defence chopping and changing last season was for me a huge issue. You can't have a kid like Tomori who you've winched out from Derby, who by the way was excellent at Derby, one player of the season with Frank Lampard there. You can't have a kid who then you stick in the Premier League with an inconsistent defence around him and a keeper who was basically rubbish behind him, and then expect him to not make a mistake or not learn. Trent still makes the odd mistake. Reece James will make mistakes this season, which is absolutely fine. When you're young, you've got to learn, and as a centre-back, you've got to do that as well. You know, you do it in a different way to full-backs, but you do have to learn, and you can't just then winch them off and basically not play them for 6 weeks. But he did that with Rudiger as well. Yeah. He did that with Zuma. You can't do that to these young players and then expect them to be fine. And my questions around Lampard and the way he does that, and the fact that he seems... It really disappoints me, because I didn't think it at all from, you know, how he came across as a player. He seems a petty man. And I sometimes think he isn't one of those people who sits down and thinks, okay, so X player made a mistake, X player did this, the referee did this, but what did I do wrong? I'm not sure he sits there and goes, what did I do wrong? And until you can do that, I think you're always going to come a cropper.
Very interesting stuff. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, Frank Lampard. He was my pick last season for the first manager to be sacked, actually. But you started the season really well. I think he's riding some kind of wave of nostalgia. I'm still not quite sure why he's in the job. He's got just enough level of success in terms of win percentage, I suppose. But let's move to Liverpool. Most of our listeners will know this, although it's good to remind ourselves sometimes. 19 league titles, 6 European Cups, 7 FA Cups, one less than Chelsea, 8 League Cups. And how confident are you, Alex, out of 10, that this season we can do even more, we can change the wall even more?
I mean, it's a few more than less than 0, that's for sure. Probably like...
Give me Allison and I'll change my mind.
Probably like a 7 or an 8, but only because I'm like a little bit of a pessimist sometimes. But then I've, saying that I've, picked Liverpool to win the league again. So I suppose I should say 10 out of 10, really.
You should say 11 out of 10.
But yeah, I do think, I will back Liverpool to win the Premier League again, because as we spoke about when we previewed the season on Did It Cross the Line, like I wonder if the signings City have made are going to be enough to overhaul that points gap. I know there are concerns over Liverpool's lack of signings, which we'll probably chat about in a bit, but we've kept all the big players. It's still the team that won the title. The other teams are trying to, overhaul the gap to Liverpool. That is how I would look at it. So we've kind of got to have faith and assume that they will push on this season. I think the other big one is the Champions League. That was the big disappointment last season. Whether the game should have even gone ahead is obviously something we can discuss in hindsight, but obviously to go out at that stage after back-to-back finals and winning one of them was a bit of a sickener, really. So you would still back Liverpool, I think, against the majority of teams in Europe.
Do you know,
So-
with your Champions League thing there, you sound like a child who has £1 in the sweetie shop and you want £1.10 worth of stuff, you've just won the league. You are absolutely fine. And 2 Champions League finals, this is, I think as well...
we have got greedy already.
Oh,
like, we definitely have.
When I look at Liverpool this season, I look at the pre-season, I look at Liverpool, fans, Twitter, everything. I think, oh my goodness gracious, you are such a good team. You are in such a good place. Your manager is perfect, not just in terms of, what he's done, how he plays. It's him. He understands the city.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be there. The board, for what anybody wants to say, when you actually read the threads, which are some great ones on Twitter, of why the spending is how it is, etc. And then you realise, you're an extremely well-run club. And, today we've seen, like, Macclesfield Town have gone out of business because of £500,000. And we've seen before clubs like Bolton, Blackburn, etc. They're these established Premier League sides. Bad owners, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
West Ham right now probably going to go down because of their board. So many teams. Newcastle could be winning a Premier League, but they're bored.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the way you've actually been set up over the last 4 years hasn't just done we'll win the league one time, we'll win a Champions League. It's set you up for years and years and years to come.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to build a dynasty, and I think it's younger Liverpool fans who kind of get...
younger now at our age,
But obviously, like, I'll say it, I'm 31. So in my lifetime, obviously we'd won the league, but I was, 9 months old, I think, at the time. I don't remember it vividly at that time. So yeah, basically my lifetime until now, I'd never seen Liverpool win a league title. And I think this kind of recent success for younger fans, they're just now, this is the expected way. Liverpool are one of the top teams, but obviously a lot of us who've supported them through thick and thin know that it hasn't always been this good. So yeah, very much like enjoying the ride at the moment.
Also, it's good football. It's really nice football. The players were all really likable. It all seems so happy. Even people like Lallana, who've done one thing in the last 3 years, they get this lovely thing. They're so happy.
Yeah.
They're really happy leaving with their time there and the whole ethos. And I say this as a Chelsea fan because I've had, so many trophies and such good times as a Chelsea fan, but there's been so many times where I've absolutely despised our players and I've been so embarrassed of the club, and I still am sometimes embarrassed to say, oh, I'm a Chelsea fan. I'd be proud to say I was a Liverpool fan, which, by the way, is maybe why I'm a top red.
I've been searching for FSG outers to bring one of them on. I don't know. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I think it's just some kind of conspiracy started by opposition fans to try and drive a wedge between us and conquer us. Because I don't think they exist. I'm trying to track them down. If anybody out there knows an FSG outer, I'm going to listen to their views. I'm going to hear what they have to say. They can put their point of view across. And then, it reminds me of that one time in class when my a theology teacher, because I had a theology teacher who was an atheist who used to be a reverend, and then he lost his faith in God. He invited a creationist to our theology class, as in the people who believe that Adam and Eve, everything in the Bible is literally true. And he was there, and it was very interesting to listen to his views. But then, of course, afterwards we were like, nah, come on. Same thing with an FSG outer. If they want to come in and say FSG should leave, then I'm all ears. Really, I'm very, very interested to know, but I'm not sure they exist.
I would also love to hear that and hear someone put across that point of view. Maybe it is just a Man City, Man United conspiracy.
I mean, there is a very big difference as well. We can't get lost here. There's a very big difference between saying you do need to buy top quality players to refresh your squad. It's something Ferguson did so well at Man United, and a huge part of their success. There's a very big difference to saying that and then saying, get the board out, this is awful, we're all on fire.
Yeah.
Right, totally.
Won the Premier League.
Totally. So, Alex, do you think we actually need signings or not?
So in terms of signings, yes and no is kind of the answer. I think obviously we're talking about the FSG outers there who've gone into meltdown over the lack of signings, but it has been over the top because, as I said, the core group of players who won the league hasn't changed. We've obviously like shipped out the likes of Lallana and Lovren, but it's not that core group of players who really won that league title. We've got the likes of Keita and Minamino to come in. I would expect big seasons from them, if obviously not injuries not permitting, obviously. Signing Tsimikas as a backup left back, I think, was really important. I'm glad the club addressed that, because outside of Robertson, it was pretty worrying what we were doing at left back otherwise, and he looks pretty good from pre-season, like he'll slot in nicely. My main worry is just not having another backup centre-back that isn't... We've got obviously young centre-backs, but with Lovren going, there's no one, as a fourth choice, really, who could come in. And obviously we've just watched a performance where this, the defensive performance wasn't the greatest. And it's like, there's not necessarily a lot of players who can push for that position. I know midfielders like Ginny and Hendo can slot in there, Fabinho's slotted in there, but that will probably be my main concern at the moment. I know... Listen, I've been sucked in by the Thiago stuff. I've fully been sucked in by it. Well. Fully, I tried not to be and tried not to get my hopes up, but I did start to believe it was going to happen, and it still might happen. It might not happen. It's all very confusing over how close the deal was to getting done, how legit these rumours were. It certainly looked like when he left the field, in the Champions League final, that was very much a farewell. That was going to be his last game, and then nothing has materialised. But
I wouldn't feel that silly, by the way, because I was checking out goalkeeper shirts to think, I'll get all black on black.
So there you go. I haven't gone that far yet, but I don't think it's not like a signing we need. Thiago, it would be bloody nice if we could get a midfielder of that quality in. But I guess the argument is, Keita is there.
Ginny's not left.
Ginny's not left yet. There's also Curtis Jones as well to play. Bringing in a player like Thiago potentially limits his opportunities in the team. But the other side of it was watching the last couple of games. I think the thing maybe Liverpool are lacking at the moment is a midfielder who can pass the ball and break the lines in that way, because more and more teams are starting to limit Trent and Robbo and really nullify their creativity. So yeah, having another creative outlet in the midfield to where it's basically thinking around the problem, which I would still expect Klopp and the team to do. But because so much of the creativity comes from Trent and Robertson at times, there needs to be, I think, something in the midfield to combat that.
I feel like I'm a dog with a bone here, because I've said it so many times on our podcast, and I say it to you all the time. But when you talk about a midfielder who can pass the ball, and I still think you should have tried harder for the Coutinho thing. And I know so many Liverpool fans have such polarising opinions on him.
Yeah, they really do.
I absolutely think he is that kind of midfielder. But I get your point as well. When I'm seeing people like Mason Mount do so well, I don't want to bring in a Kai Havertz.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, I want to see you play. I want to see you thrive. I want to see you shine. So I think that's the thing as well. The one thing I would say on the Liverpool signings is, if this would have been a normal year and a normal summer, and you'd done the same activity, and we'd have gone into this season knowing the African Cup of Nations was playing, I'd have said, you are absolutely done for. I cannot believe you've been that neglectful. But the AFCON's moved.
Yeah.
It is a year later now. So you're not going to lose Salah, Mane, Keita for such a period of time. So I think it is slightly different. And maybe as well, that's another thing that Klopp and FSG are looking at. Also, you remember the big Verge thing, when you want a player, you will just wait for them. How do you know that you're not waiting 6 months to get somebody in January that you don't know about? People that talk about these transfers or even write about them, as much as Duncan Castles thinks he sleeps in Mourinho's bed, in reality he's got absolutely no clue, has he? They think they know so much, but realistically, it's only Klopp and FSG that really know what's happening. How do you know what's going to happen? Could be signing anybody. Could be getting Drogba.
It's quite the mental image you've created there.
No, it's absolutely true. That's one thing that used to annoy me, is a lot of secrets used to leak out of the club, and I used to think, well, why? And Klopp has, and FSG have put a stop to that, which is very nice. And I totally agree with you, Alex, as well, in terms of like someone who can control the tempo of a match and sitting deep in midfield. I mean, basically, Thiago would be absolutely glorious, and I have also completely bought into it. And yes, I wake up early, pre-dawn, and my pre-dawn thoughts are just probably 8 out of 10 of them involve Thiago Alcantara playing for Liverpool.
Thiago passing the ball to Mo Salah, that's like...
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the midfield options, If Genie stayed... we could talk about this all night. But I do want to move on to a little... I thought of a little part of this episode we could do one-word questions, where I just give you one word and you can go wherever you like with it. So we've done Kepa, so I'm going to do the next one on my list, which is a Liverpool one. So Alex, Roberto Firmino. Firmino is the one-word question.
So I don't have to give a one-word answer here.
No, please don't. Yeah.
Because it should be teeth.
The whitest teeth in the galaxy. But yeah, I think he's so pivotal to the way the team plays. He's so underrated. I do think, again, something we spoke about last night, of like maybe he does need to up his goal scoring again. That was something that he was slightly lacking in last season. I know Martin Tyler liked to bring up every game at Anfield how he hadn't scored at Anfield, and then I believe Firmino scored against Chelsea at Anfield, just to put that stat to bed.
It is very important that one of the words isn't Martin or Tyler, because we will not be able to publish what we say.
He's a fascinating commentator in his hatred of Liverpool. But yeah, I mean, Firmino, I think he almost like polarizes opinion in a weird way, which is crazy when you think about how he's been part of how much this Liverpool side has improved. He's so important to how he creates the space for Mane and Salah. I mean, they're phenomenal attackers, but they would not be scoring the amount of goals they do without someone like Firmino helping to create that space for them. So I'm always like, Team Bobby on this, but I do hope he chips in with a few more goals this season. That will be my only slight criticism, I think.
Yes, he looks a little bit shy. He looks a little bit timid. He looks like someone who's just in front of goal, just lacking a little bit of the cutting edge. But I totally agree. He's a beautiful player to watch. Absolutely wonderful. Wouldn't swap him for anyone. Rebecca, Jorginho.
Oh, well, gosh, if you'd have asked me under Sarri, there would have been a different answer. But
do you want to mention his penalty technique and how you basically sang a song when he did the Jorginho hop?
I can't remember the song. Why don't you sing it for everybody?
I'd rather not at this point.
But yeah, I feel like I want him to be starting. I like Jorginho. I think that when you play him properly, he offers an awful lot. It's funny because if you'd asked me the word Jorginho, as I say, under Sarri, I would have said sell. And now, if you ask me the word Kante, I would say sell, because I'm not sure that what we have as a manager or what we've had can fit the two of them together in a midfield. And now we've got all these forwards as well, and you want to accommodate. I also want to accommodate a five at the back, which I think is even more important. And I love N'Golo Kante, but if I could pick between the two, and I think it's going to come to that point this season when everybody's fit and available, I think you're going to have to do that. I would actually start Jorginho. I think he offers you a little bit more.
So would you...
God, I hate myself.
Would you have, Kovacic and Jorginho in there then?
I probably would, because again, I'm a huge advocate of this five at the back, because it's the only way I'm going to feel comfortable with Thiago Silva starting any kind of game. And I also think that's the way we are best defensively anyway, and I think the wing backs will help so much going forward. And I think all of this feeds into how important Jorginho can be, and I think you might have the question of is N'Golo Kante a tad redundant in that.
Yeah, crazy that that could be a thing, but I totally know what you mean. Like Kante, though, would go to another team and be be our best player. It's crazy.
You can name nearly every other team in the world where
he would improve them instantly. Yeah, it's such a strange situation.
Yeah, it is indeed. I mean, I love N'Golo Kante, but he's had knee problems, right? I mean, he's not perfectly fit. Is that true?
Yeah, and I've seen people as well say, like, perhaps the way he's played has taken it out of him, and now we're seeing the consequences. And he has been a little bit stop and start with injury, which hasn't helped the situation. But a huge problem we had last season was inconsistency in the 11, and we didn't have a spine. Lampard could never pick a spine and stick to it, and I think to have any kind of success as a side, you have to do that. And I'm not sure if you're genuinely picking a spine right now, Conte would actually be in it. Which is very bizarre to say, because obviously the last time we had genuine success, he was the reason.
Yeah.
But the game moves on. Is that even a fair thing to say?
I don't, like I said, I don't even think it's the game moving on. It's just, I don't think he fits in that Chelsea team anymore, and it is strange because you'd back him to go to any top club in Europe and be absolutely pivotal, but it's just it's like a round peg in a square hole at the moment.
Basically, yeah.
Excellent answer. Thank you very much. 29 years old, N'Golo Kante. I just checked, and I don't know. I love seeing him. When Chelsea aren't playing against Liverpool, I love watching N'Golo Kante. So I don't know. Wish him all the best, and Jorginho as well. What a player! I'll just do one more each of these. So I'm going to give you Curtis Jones, Alex.
Oh, good one. Yeah, really exciting. Loads of potential. It's always nice to see, homegrown Scouser on the pitch. Obviously, the fact that he scored that screamer against Everton as well, instantly secured him basically as a cult hero immediately. I think another option we've got in midfield that's been slightly overlooked in all the Thiago talk and whether Wijnaldum stays and everything around that we have got these other players who can come in. Keita's, the obvious high-profile one, but Curtis Jones, every time he's played, has put in a really good performance, and I think he does offer an element going forward in a slightly different way that the other Liverpool midfielders don't necessarily. So, yeah, I would anticipate that we'll see a fair bit of him this season. Not maybe starting games, but certainly coming on around 60, 70 minutes, I think, to have an impact.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when you hear rival fans, from my perspective, talk about Chelsea's, lack of sticking with the youth this season, buying in all these big names. And I'm like, yeah, but also some of you are saying, oh, let's sell Brewster, and also let's get in Thiago and just put Curtis Jones aside. Owen Jones. Just thinking Gardy comes in. Imagine get him in the midfield, but putting Curtis Jones aside, and it can't just work as in one team one way. I like Curtis Jones. I was really impressed with him last season when I watched him, and I think you've got to at some point take the plunge and say these players aren't just bit members of the squad. We're not just going to play them in the cups to give them minutes. They are actual, real important players. I trust in them, and I'm going to back them to come on and make the difference instead of buying X, Y, and Z.
I'd love to see it. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun watching him play. I mean, I get ridiculously, what's the word, bullish about our players. And I would say, to me, he looks like a future Ballon d'Or winner. Where are we? The 16th of September, 2020. I'm gonna write it down, my prediction, just so that in 10 years I can look back and tell myself I was wrong, just like I was with Joe Allen and Charlie Adam. But anyway, so Rebecca, one word question. The last one, Reece James.
I like Reece James. I think he should be starting this season. He's another reason I'd really advocate for a back five as well, because I think that gets the best out of him. I know last season, especially, in the Champions League, he got his pants pulled down a little bit, but that's okay. That needs to happen. I'm a really big advocate of these young players having that experience, making those mistakes and learning. And it's naivety. It's not being a bad player. It's being a young player and it's being naive. And then they learn from the mistake and they don't do it again. If they do it again and they keep doing it, then you've got to start having a conversation of, are they actually that good? But you can't, write somebody off in their first proper season or their second proper season. And he's lethal on the ball. We saw that against Brighton.
Yeah, what a goal that was.
Yeah, he's got such a good eye for that kind of goal. And I like him. I'm always enthusiastic for, young players to come through as well. I said on our podcast, I'm actually devastated from that he's English because I feel like so much is going to be put on his shoulders. And this horrible narrative of which right back is the best, and all fans get really tribal. And then, if Trent makes a mistake, you get Man United and Chelsea Twitter and fans being horrible to Trent. If it's Wan-Bissaka, it's the other way around. If it's Reece James, and there's this like narrative and pressure that isn't necessarily on all the players.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is absolutely ludicrous how many young English right backs, specifically that position, seems to be like the most stacked England have had in God knows how long. It's mad.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. They might have even kept Gary Neville out of the England team had they been around in his generation, maybe. But no, yeah, thank you. Very interesting answer. And to move on to my first question, very specifically about this weekend's game, Rebecca, with Reece James, is do you rate him highly enough to be able to stop Sadio the main man, Mane?
Oh, there's a question. I'm not sure I'd rate really anybody in the world high enough to do that. I think.
Nice to hear.
Yes, I love Mane. I think he's such a good player. I think when you look at Mane and Salah, they are, for me, the two players in the world you absolutely do not want running at you. I think it's going to be a good experience from whatever happens, because you do need to play against the best of the best to get yourself to a certain level and to test yourself as well. Be nice to watch him actually, in not as obviously, I don't mean nice when he concedes 5 goals and Sadio Mane's man of the match and then we're all done for. I don't mean nice in that way, but nice to see if he's learned from his games last season, and nice to see if he's learned from the Champions League, and to see how he's progressed as a player, because until you watch them there in those games, these young players, you don't know how they've progressed. So yeah, I am a little bit excited for that. Like I say, I couldn't rate Mane any higher. So again, no blame on Reece James if he has a disaster class. It's just you've got to learn from that.
A very decent answer. But then on the other side, you've got Alonso against Salah.
I'll go.
Alex is laughing. Are you feeling confident about that one, Alex?
I mean, we all saw what Mo Salah just did in the first game of the season, like man of the match, hat trick. He looks like, it's crazy to say he seems like he's in his best form for a while, because he's always in great form, and he's such a victim of his own success from that first season at Liverpool and how many he scored, that every subsequent season people think he's not been quite as good. But he's definitely looks like he's hit the ground running this season. He wants the golden boot. He was the guy making the difference in the game against Leeds. And yeah, I think it'll obviously be Alonso down that side, and you'd assume Zuma as well as on that side of the centre back pairing. And yeah, I don't think they'll be looking forward to Mo Salah running at them, because also even Mo Salah, not in his best form, tends to do quite well against Chelsea. So
God, I wonder why.
Him in this form, I think, could be quite scary for Chelsea's defence, to be honest. And Alonso, he's going to be up against Salah and Trent as well down that side. Alonso's probably going to have to curb some of his more attacking instincts, I think, because Trent will just exploit that all day long if Alonso gets too high up the pitch.
Well, that was the thing that Bielsa, for all of his bravado, gusto, call it what you like, it was absolutely marvellous to watch. But a few people have picked up on the fact that they did actually give Mo Salah a lot of room and space, and left him sort of one-on-one with their defender. So presumably, Rebecca, Frank Lampard, I mean, despite his limitations, he will try to come up with a better defensive plan. Can you see him sort of tweaking the tactics and being a little bit defensive?
I mean, is Lampard able to do that? Does Lampard have the ability to do that? Do we have the players to do that right now? I think he did try in that Brighton game to be more solid and to set us up to be more combative of attacks and being ripped apart. I'm just not sure the defensive coaching is there at Chelsea. I really don't think it is. I think he will want those fullbacks to be a lot more solid. But again, I know I sound like a broken record. For me, the best thing to do is a 5 at the back, because then you've got almost an extra man in there when or if somebody gets around you or somebody gets inside. You know, players can come across. They can almost one extra, central defender, if you will, can essentially do the work of a fullback if they're caught out of position.
Well, that's what I've been wondering about, how Lampard's actually going to set up tactically in this game, because obviously went 4-2-3-1 against Brighton. I wonder, is he going to stick with that? Does he revert to the back three? Because, arguably that's a much better way to limit Liverpool's front three.
I would agree as well. I would agree 3 at the back. But I mean, how realistic is it that he will actually do that? Has he done it before, Rebecca? I don't know.
Yeah, so we've done the 5 at the back before last season a few times, and it's been, or you call it the 3 and then the 2 or 5 in midfield or whatever, however you want to do it. But it's been, for me, the best we've played, and that's the most I've enjoyed watching us and the most solid I've thought we are. I just think at the moment Lampard might think, the right players aren't available. I'm a little bit hamstrung. If we are incorporating, it won't happen this weekend, it's too soon, but when we do incorporate Thiago Silva, I think in terms of his age and pace level right now, he's going to have to be in the middle of the back three. Otherwise, we are going to see him with that high line just get caught out again and again. Yeah. And even if Lampard starts with a 4 with Thiago Silva in it, he's going to very quickly realise that is not supposed to be a thing.
Yeah, I don't think this is... I know Thiago Silva's like a big game player. He's got loads of experience. I'm not sure you drop him right into playing the reigning Premier League champions. Yeah, I wouldn't expect to see him start. But yeah, with Lampard, like, as we said earlier, like, he changed the team so many times last season that it still is a little bit unpredictable what he's going to go with as the lineup, because on paper, I wouldn't expect to see that many changes. I'd probably expect Kovacic to come in, but that might be about it, really. But then you think, is he just going to completely change the formation around again?
Yeah, I think one of the things with Lampard is he doesn't know his spine and he doesn't know his best players. He doesn't know his best formation, which means we don't have a clue either.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody does, because we chop and change so much. And again, as I said before, that's been a massive problem for us last season.
So yes, okay. Maybe he took his tips from Claudio Ranieri, the Tinker Man. Who knows? No, it's all very interesting. Jamie Connolly, excuse me, Jamie, also one of the Cop-On family. He sent me a message earlier talking about the tactics for the game, and he said if Liverpool win the midfield battle, then we will win the game. Alex, the midfield is a fascinating thing, isn't it? With Liverpool, we've got options. Even without Thiago, we've got lots of options. Who would you pick in midfield? And do you agree with Jamie's assessment that if we win the midfield battle, if we get service to our front players, then Chelsea will lose?
Yeah, 100%. I would go with that. I think Chelsea's midfield against Brighton still looked gappy, shall we say. There was still, if he does bring Kovacic back in, that might help shore that up a little bit. I think in terms of Liverpool's midfield, I said that in a very scouse way, didn't I? In terms of Liverpool's midfield, if he's fit enough, I would like to see Fabinho starting, because I think that protects the back four much better. We saw when he came on against Leeds, it did look a little bit more secure at that point. And then I guess it's a question of how Klopp sees it. Does he play a Kepa to potentially open up Chelsea a bit more? Does he need to in that one? Is it better to go with Fabinho, Henderson, Wijnaldum, which is tried and tested, very compact? He knows they can win the ball back quickly, effectively, get it moving to the front three. So I would probably expect it to be Fabinho, Henderson, Wijnaldum, and them to just, completely, bully Chelsea's midfield, to be honest.
No, I do agree with the midfield point, but I agree with that up to a point, funnily enough, because I think even if we won the midfield battle, but we didn't nullify Trent, probably still going to lose.
Yeah,
I think we've got to do both.
That is the beauty of Liverpool. Like, they do have so many areas that you have to worry about.
One person's beauty is another person's pain.
I'm getting not an audio feature, but the look I was getting there was looks could kill.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, it's so I don't know, the midfield. You've really got totally different ways and styles of playing and styles and approaches. I do agree with you, Alex. I do think Kloppo is likely, especially away from home, to go with a sort of muscular midfield. But then the forgotten man, James Milner, could he roll out just as a sort of surprise wild card? Because Klopp loves a wild card. The team for Chelsea, let's say that, I don't know, maybe he's going to go 3 at the back. I don't know. The team against Brighton was Kepa the keeper, Kepa the Casper keeper in goal, Marcos Alonso, Kurt Zouma, Christensen and Reece James. In midfield, you had Jorginho and Kante holding, with Mason Mount, Kai Havertz and Loftus-Cheek in front of them. And up front was Timo Werner. It's a very good team on paper, apart from the defence and the goalkeeper. But Rebecca, I know what you would do. You play 3 at the back. Would you expect Lampard to agree with you, or you just really, as you said before, you've got no idea what he's going to do?
I think it'll be a pretty similar team, but I think Loftus-Cheek will get dropped. That would be my take from the performance against Brighton as well. At the moment, Thiago Silva isn't fit. I think he will stick with Zouma and Christensen, just because obviously they seem to be the fittest. They seem to have had the most, in inverted commas, pre-season as well with the club. Chilwell probably won't make it. So I think that is extremely close to the team we're going to see. I just might expect a little tweak in terms of the Loftus-Cheek position. And to be quite honest, considering how he played against Brighton, I think he deserves it.
So Kovacic coming in?
I'd say so, yeah. The beauty of Timo Werner, though, and this wouldn't happen, but the beauty of Timo Werner is you could also play, I think, legitimately Tammy Abraham and then Timo Werner behind him, or on one of the wings. Werner is such, no offence to all the sad Liverpool players and fans out there who wish they got him. He's such a versatile player, and we saw against Brighton, he can do so much stuff. He can do more stuff than you realise.
He loves to drift out as well to the wings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he did play it wide at times for Leipzig as well. So yeah, it's just, again, is Lampard tactically flexible enough to actually see those opportunities? Because potentially, that's something that Liverpool maybe wouldn't have fully prepared for if he did something like that. And sometimes it is like a case you need to, obviously someone like Pep Guardiola sometimes does this a bit too much, but you do have to try and outthink an opposition manager and try and surprise them a little bit. I just don't know if Lampard has the capacity yet to actually do that.
No, I agree. And the thing is, when we look at certain games, and the game against Arsenal is case in point, where we came out 20 minutes were really, really good. Then those nonsense water breaks absolutely crucified us, because Arteta saw the game, completely changed it, because Arteta is hugely tactically astute, and then Lampard couldn't react because Lampard only had what he knew we were doing in the first instance. So it is an interesting question that I do. Sometimes I love Klopp's managers. Sometimes I watch him and wonder if he waits 10 minutes too long to make substitutions in certain games. So I think if we could surprise him, that would be great. I'm not sure we will.
Well, Liverpool have got a kind of worrying habit of conceding the first goal and starting slowly. That's been going on for a while. But so hopefully we can get out of the blocks a bit better. And then not concede sloppy goals as soon as we've scored. Klopp at Stamford Bridge. Now, this is an interesting record. In the last 5 matches, well, the only 5 matches that Klopp has played at Stamford Bridge. Our record is win, win, loss, draw, win. So 3 wins, a loss and a draw for Jurgen Klopp at Stamford Bridge, which is way better than anyone has the right to do at Stamford Bridge. A prediction, do you think we can, win again? Last season we won there 2-1, of course. What do you think, Alex?
I'm backing Liverpool to win. I think my prediction on our podcast was 3-1 potentially. I mean, in terms of obviously the win-loss record, it's that Klopp is fully living rent-free in Lampard's head now as well, which I think also has an effect, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, even despite some of the dodgy defensive showings against Leeds, shall we say, I would be surprised if Chelsea could exploit that in the same way, because they don't. He's not going to set up tactically like Bielsa did. He's not going to try and bypass.
You're trying to say that Frank Lampard isn't as tactically astute as Bielsa. Alex, how could you do this to me?
The guy who influenced most of the top managers in
the guy
football,
that Guardiola and Pochettino trekked to Argentina to find.
But I don't think Lampard's going to try and bypass the midfield in the same way. I don't think he's going to try and, at times like Bielsa, Leeds were committing 5 players forward. It's just, when you look at how Chelsea set up against Brighton, they're not going to set up, to attack really against Liverpool. And I think, that you would expect Liverpool, therefore, to dominate the game, win the midfield battle. And I'm not convinced that, like you said, Alonso is going to be able to keep Trent Alexander-Arnold quiet or keep Salah quiet, and I think that's where the problems come in. Well, he's not, is he? I'll put my neck out there and say Alonso probably isn't going to have the defensive nous to keep those two quiet.
I'm almost certain the words Marcus and Alonso will be trending on Twitter by 20 minutes in, and it won't be because of the Keystone wallet thing, will it?
Oh dear. But I mean, that's surely one of the key battles, isn't it? I mean, if Timo Werner does drift out wide, that's where a lot of Chelsea's dangers could come from. If, like Bielsa exploited the space left by our attacking fullbacks absolutely brilliantly, didn't he? Or at least he tried to. It's hard against Liverpool, but he did so well. Can Frank find those gaps? I'm not sure, but that surely is a key battle. What's your prediction, Rebecca?
I actually went for a draw, but now I feel like a complete fool. Not as foolish as I feel having put all my Halloween decorations out and it's been 28 degrees this week, but still a fool nonetheless. I still kind of feel like a 2-2 or something. But the problem is, because I am, in my heart of hearts, a little bit of a Liverpool fan, still want you to retain the title. It's so hard for me to want you to drop points.
That's been admitted on another Liverpool podcast now, that you're secretly...
Yes, but no Chelsea fan will ever like me, so I need to get some validation from somewhere.
From Chelsea's side, I will say Werner's definitely going to score, isn't he? Because it's just the narrative is right there. Werner's going to score, Salah's going to score. Because that's always the way these things seem to go in games like this.
Yeah, I just prayed one day that Ginny will score. I wasn't against Leeds, just praying Ginny will score, because I just want all those horrible people. Yeah. I just love him so much. Maybe now I've lost all the goodwill I've got from Liverpool Twitter.
Excellent stuff. Well, thank you so much. I mean, it's so good of you both to have this chat. I mean, it's brilliant to preview the game and hear both of your opinions on Frank's Chelsea. I almost said Fat Frank's Chelsea, but I just
these days that's fine, bald or fat.
Excuse me. He's got sort of chubby cheeks, but he's not ever been a large man. But anyway, we won't talk about his weight. We can talk about his lack of skill. We've already done that. Thank you.
Oh, as a manager, not a player.
No, come on.
Another hour.
Come on. I mean, that was marvellous player, wonderful player. Would be brilliant in the Bielsa system, running from midfield, actually. Absolutely superb player. But so was Roy Keane. And as a manager, absolute shite. So, but excuse me.
Yeah.
On that note, sorry, no offence, but I'm just.
You said no offence because you're afraid Roy Keane may come and find you now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Terrifying man.
That's right. Absolutely. But no. Thank you very much, both of you. Have the marvelous remainder of your evening. Yes, here I am. Here I am with Doug. He's very kindly agreed to jump onto Skype to talk about the absolutely. It's sort of mind blowing in the best way possible. It just sort of explodes your mind in a flurry of what's that happy hormone? Serotonin. Serotonin surging through the blood of and the brains of all Liverpool fans across the world. Thiago Alcantara, a fee has been agreed. Doug, what were you doing when you heard the news? I mean, this is generational stuff. You've got to tell your grandkids about this signing.
It's just unbelievable. Like that story broke about 9:30. 9:30 this morning, and I had breakfast, had everything, had a cup of tea as well, and then the news came on my phone, and it said the Athletic Liverpool have agreed or are close to signing Thiago, and I was like, I literally could not believe it. Like, I had to look for about 5 seconds, and then basically I decided to basically get my iPad, do a video. I'm absolutely buzzing. Absolutely buzzing. I've said this is the player we've been needing for absolute ages. We've been needing a creative midfielder. And it looks like Gini's going to be staying after all as well. So, we've got so many options in that midfield now, but Thiago is the missing piece in the jigsaw.
He really is. I mean, he's not just creative, he tackles, he holds his position. He's 29 years old. Just to give you a couple of facts, I've been, whizzing around loads of different sites in the past sort of 10 minutes. Only sort of saw the message 10 minutes ago. I've been working. I'm so excited, like you, buzzing, great word for it. So he's born on the 11th of April, 1991. It makes him 29. He was actually born in Italy, did you know that? To Brazilian parents. And one of his parents, his dad, played in the 1994 World Cup in the USA for Brazil. Mazinho, I don't know how many of our listeners will remember him. I don't really remember. I remember the name. It's a brilliant name, Mazinho. So he comes from footballing stock. And looking at his honours, absolutely mind-blowing. Now, I've checked this on 2 different sites. How many trophies he's won, and adding them up. I added them up myself because and my maths is really bad, but simple addition's not too bad. I make it that he's won 35 major trophies. He's won La Liga 4 times, the German Bundesliga 7 times, the DFB Pokal, the German Cup, 4 times, the Spanish Copa del Rey once, the Spanish Super Cup 3 times, the German Super Cup 3 times, the Champions League twice, the UEFA Super Cup 3 times, the Club World Cup 3 times, the World Audi Cup, I don't even know what that is, 3 times, I think, the UEFA Under-21 Euros twice. I make that a grand total of 35 trophies. And in comparison, Lionel Messi has won 34. This is one of, if not the most decorated footballer of our time. He's won the league every season but one in his career, going back to 2008, 2009. With him in the team, dictating things from the back, no one's going to stop us. They can't stop us in the league season, can they, Doug?
No, absolutely not. I think this is a signing that gets teams to basically look at. It's basically a signing that you could actually say that teams will now look at us and think, "Wow, you've got a very, very great player." I mean, I remember him in the Barcelona days; he was fantastic there. But Bayern Munich, he's been even better as well. Injury record is a wee bit of a worry. But I reckon with with games under his belt. I mean, there's even talk the medical's going to be done today. You know, the medical's done today. If he is signed today, then he goes straight into the squad for Chelsea on Sunday, and we might actually see him, or his debut would be obviously Arsenal. But it's just this is a signing we've been needing for ages. I've said this as very well. Felipe Coutinho was our last attacking midfielder, and now we've got one in Thiago, who, let's be honest, is trophy cabinet. I mean, he's even got he's one more trophy than Lionel Messi.
Yeah, he needs to build a shed. It's not just a cabinet. He's built a special shed in his garden for the trophy.
But it's just unbelievable. But I'm just excited, and apparently he's going to wear the number 6. So he's got big shoes to fill. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. But no. No, I would rather Thiago Alcantara number 6 than Dejan Lovren. Let's put it that way. But no, it's a signing that's making me very, very excited.
Yeah, you did mention his injury record, and that's one thing that can, nothing is perfect in this life, but he's pretty close to it. But yes, his injury record, he did manage to make 26 starts or 30 total appearances for Bayern Munich in 18-19, and then in 19-20 he only managed 20 starts in the league with 24 in total, so 4 substitute appearances, 20 starts last season. He played 1,771 minutes, for those of you who could work out how many 90s that is. I don't know, about 20, yeah, just under 20. And so he might not be fit all season, but when he is fit, if he is fit, assuming he passes the medical, those stringent Liverpool doctors, of course, what would be your team for Chelsea then? I mean, the options are endless in midfield, but who would you pick? Would you change to 4-2-3-1? We've got so many options. What would you go for, Doug?
I would probably go for 4-2-3-1, to be honest with you. Because looking at it, I think it'll be Alisson. I think it'll be the usual back 4, and then you've got a choice. You have a choice now. So it could be Fabinho and Thiago, and then maybe the front 3 sort of. Actually, come to think of it, no. Actually, what about Fabinho and Henderson as the holding midfielders? And then Thiago in the wee pocket, so it could be like a 4-2. It could be like a 4-2-1-3 or something like that. That could possibly work, because Thiago for me would be the base behind the attackers. So I think it'll be Alisson, Trent, Gomez, Van Dijk, Robertson, Fabinho and Hendo in the holding, Thiago in the attacking, and then the front 3. For me,
if you're going that formation, you're changing his position a little bit, because he is normally a sort of defensive midfielder player, but yeah, moving him further up, he's definitely got the skills to do that. But what about if you had, for example, Thiago holding with, we've got so many things. I've got no idea what I'd do. But let's say, for example, if you're doing this sort of in that formation, you've got Thiago and Henderson holding, Naby Keita in front, and then the front 3.
That's a good idea.
That could be very exciting to watch, couldn't it? What about if we sticks with the 4-3-3? I prefer the 4-3-3, because a 4-2-3-1, your wide players have to defend a bit, to a bit more than in a 4-3-3 in my sort of experience of watching football. I don't really know, but I don't know. If he sticks with the 4-3-3, then you can have Thiago, Henderson, Wijnaldum, which is beautiful.
Yes.
It's so beautiful, the whole thing. Thiago and James Milner, the old men. Bring out the old men. It would be, roll them out. Absolutely wonderful. There's so much to be excited about. But yes, 29 years old, 35 major trophies, and it's I can't believe it. I can't believe I've actually done it, because I was thinking as well, when, look at our big signings in history, okay? Like in your life, okay? And, I'm a little bit older than you, but in my life, if you look where we got our players from, of course, Van Dijk was a world record price for a defender, but we got him from Southampton. Alisson Becker, more or less a world record signing from Roma. Now, he was someone who's proven quality, but I don't know about you, I don't really watch the Italian league, so I wasn't really, and he was new on the scene. He had only been playing in the Roma team for a year before we signed him. So I didn't really know much about him. And then you go back to our other fantastic signings, Mohamed Salah, unproven, again came from Italy. But this is the first player that I can think of, the first major signing who's come from a major team, who's chosen to leave the European champions, to come to Liverpool, to join this exciting project with Klopp. And that's something that I think is really interesting, because I don't remember. Am I missing someone? I mean, is there something in that in the kind of shift in Liverpool's perception around Europe as a fabulous destination club?
It's a good point. It's a very, very good point, actually. I know we signed, obviously, I know we signed Torres from Atletico Madrid, and that was a big deal at the time. I know we signed Suarez from Ajax. I know he's proven in Ajax, but he wasn't proven anywhere else. I think you're right. I think this could be our biggest transfer in the history of the club.
In terms of from a big team, absolutely, yeah. But a good one to bring up, Torres. Yeah, I mean, he came from Atletico. Loads of big clubs were chasing him, so that was a coup to sign him. But yeah, this is certainly. I mean, since Torres, I mean, this is wow. Everybody. What are you looking forward to most about watching him?
Oh, it's just his all-round play. Like he's what we've been needing to get a few more. He pops up with goals as well. Scored quite a few for Barcelona. Scored quite a few for Munich. If he can pop up with the goals, then that's something we've been lacking in midfield. I think is that our midfield is very, very hard working, but they're not getting many goals. Like Henderson, Kepa, I know they popped up with a few last season, but Thiago, he pops up with goals from time to time. So if we're needing someone to score, if it's like 0-0 after like 80 minutes, and it's like we just scrape like 1-0 or something, then he could be potentially that player. But no, his all round play, he's just going to be a joy to watch for the front three. Popping in balls from he reminds me of Xabi Alonso a little bit. So maybe we found our new Xabi Alonso.
Good call. Yes, exactly. We, maybe this is it. We've been waiting since the whatever it was, 2009-10, when Xabi Alonso left, whenever that was. We've been waiting since then to replace him, and this is it. That's a great call. Yeah, in terms of goals, he doesn't score that many. He scores a few, but last season he got 3, just league goals. I'm not counting Champions League. Just in the Bundesliga, 3 last season, 2, 6, and 2 in the last 5 seasons going backwards in the Bundesliga. So yeah, occasionally, and also assists from the number 6 position, which we don't get very often. He had, although he didn't make an assist last year, unusually for him, he got 6 the season before, and 2 the season before that, 5 the season before that, and 3 the season before that. So, wow. I'm looking forward to his, as you say, just everything about him. There's one thing, the little tricks, like the way that he wriggles out of spaces, he's like an octopus. In a, I don't know, trying to get through the hatch of a submarine. He just wriggles through any gap, even where there isn't one. I can't wait. I just can't wait. It's going to be beautiful. So if it goes through today, and we can only keep our fingers crossed that he passes this medical. Then 30 million. It's a no-brainer. The fee is hilariously low for someone of that quality, isn't it? And FSG out, Michael Edwards out, Klopp out, because they're not backing the manager. It goes to show again the point I've been making for ages, that you don't need to spend a lot of money if you are very smart. And we've got the right people in charge, haven't we, Doug? I really want to find an FSG outer. If you know any, let me know. I want to know their opinions, because it's nonsense to doubt our ownership, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We don't have to spend that amount. Like, we don't have to spend mega bucks to get players like that. But we've got Kostas Tsimikas, sorry, for 11 million, and Thiago for 27 million pounds. I mean, that's 38 million on two players, and you know what? We've not. Yeah, I mean, everyone can say, Chelsea have been spending, Man City have been spending, Arsenal have been spending. But put it this way, our boards do things a lot better than any other boards that I can think of. And Michael Edwards, that guy deserves a statue for the amount of transfer work he has managed to get us. It's just incredible. I'm so looking forward to having Thiago in our team, because he will improve our midfield by a lot.
I mean, how do you feel if you're Pep Guardiola now? You've managed to attract Nathan Ake. You've managed to attract Ferran Torres, or whatever his name is. Ferran Torres, who got, I think it was 2 goals in La Liga last year, and he's supposed to be a winger. And our other rivals, Solskjaer, back in June, people were talking about, oh yeah, Solskjaer, the pulling power of Manchester United is back because we're in the Champions League. So, we're going to sign Jadon Sancho, and we're going to sign Kai Havertz and all this stuff. None of that has transpired. They got Donny van de Beek, good player, but you got to be gutted if you're a Man United fan, if you are a City fan, and if you are a Chelsea fan, with all the dodgy defending and not signing a keeper, and you spent all this money, and then Liverpool go and pull this beauty out of the hat. I mean, our joy, the yin or the yang to our yin or yang, whatever the other side is their misery for our happiness. Surely, Doug.
Absolutely. Again, you hit the nail on the head. Like, Man City, they've got Nathan Ake, they've got Ferran Torres, Man United, Donny van de Beek. Yeah, Chelsea, you may have got Thiago Silva, you may have got Kai Havertz, you may have got Timo Werner, and the other players who I can't actually think, Ben Chilwell as well. But Liverpool to get a player of Thiago's quality and from what he's been bringing to Barcelona and Bayern Munich, and I immediately thought after the Champions League final, let's go and get Thiago. Let's go and get him, because he was the best player on the pitch that night. I thought he was absolutely tremendous. And this will go all around Europe, knowing that, Liverpool have signed a fantastic player in Thiago Alcantara, someone who was obviously under Pep Guardiola's stewardship at Barcelona. And now the major fact is that he wants to play for Klopp. That's the one thing. He wants to play for Klopp. He wants to join Liverpool. I mean, there's even talk that he's even found his house in Liverpool. But let's not believe all those rumours. But no, let's just say it's a happy Thiago Thursday.
Yes, indeed. What a lovely way to end this little snippet. Thank you so much, Doug. Just very quickly, I'll leave everybody with the thoughts of Shaunak, who's a Cop-On contributor from time to time. He says, my thoughts in short, this is the biggest pulling power we've ever had, as we've discussed, thanks to Klopp. So it makes full sense to back a manager like this instead of penny pinching like we've done before. Okay, fair enough. We're getting a world-class player for a cheap fee who will give direct supply to our front three, so it's a no-brainer. We are a big club and not a club, so we shouldn't have to sell to buy. Why not keep Gini and Thiago? Depth and competition are good. I followed Thiago for over a decade since he made his Barca debut, and if fit, we've got a world-class player. And indeed we do. We got a world-class player. Thanks, Sean, for those thoughts. And bring it on. I mean, I've been waking up before dawn. I don't know about you. I've been waking up before dawn. I've been worrying about Gini's contract. It's true. And, I've been thinking about Thiago, imagining, and I believe it's Alcantara. Can I just get, we've done the pronunciation of Tsimikas with the stress on the me. Very important, Doug. Alcantara, the accent is on the second syllable, A, the second A, so it's Alcantara, I believe, but I'm going to check that because it's Portuguese and I don't know Portuguese. Thank you so much, Doug, for joining me. Have a great day. Have marvellous daydreams and night dreams about the beautiful future that awaits us.
Thank you.
And thus, as the last of this episode's oyster shells is shucked and tossed mindlessly into a brightly coloured bin, all that remains is for me to thank you, the dearest, most scrumptious listener, for listening. And I do mean that. Thank you. Block us on Twitter at CopOnPodcast. Send in your agony aunt letters to coponpodcast@gmail.com. Report us on patreon.com/CopOnPodcast, or simply tell a friend about us. Copon is free. Copon is for you. Thiago Alcantara is for all of us.